Hello, teacher educators. Nice to meet you again. Inquiry-based learning is an effective approach in the elementary classroom. It allows students to explore concepts at their own pace and encourages them to ask questions and make predictions. However, implementing this approach can be challenging. One way to make inquiry-based learning more effective is to use a method called visual journaling. This method is particularly effective in elementary classrooms because it caters to visual and interactive learning styles. It can help students to remember what they have learned and can also help them to develop their creativity. In this video, we will discuss how to implement the visual journaling method in the elementary classroom. If you are new here, subscribe now. Let's start. The first step to implementing visual journaling in the elementary classroom is to introduce students to the concept of a visual journal. A visual journal is a type of diary where students can record their thoughts, ideas, and reflections using drawings, diagrams, and other visual aids. Students can use visual journals to document their learning journey and reflect on their progress over time. To introduce students to the idea of a visual journal, start by asking them what they think would be the purpose of a visual journal. Discuss with them the importance of documenting their learning and reflecting on their progress. Explain to students how a visual journal can help them to remember what they have learned and can also help them to develop their creativity. Next, show students examples of visual journals. You can find examples online or in books about visual journaling. Explain to students how other students have used visual journals to record their thoughts, ideas, and reflections. Encourage students to ask questions and share their thoughts about visual journaling. After introducing students to the concept of a visual journal, it's time to start creating. Provide each student with a blank notebook or folder where they can keep their visual journal. Encourage students to decorate their journal covers and personalize them. This will help students to feel ownership of their journal and encourage them to use it regularly. The next step is to model how to create a visual journal entry. Start by asking students what they want to learn about or what they want to reflect on. For example, if you are teaching a unit on fractions, you might ask students to reflect on their prior knowledge of fractions. If you are teaching a unit on the solar system, you might ask students to reflect on what they already know about the planets in the solar system. Once students have an idea of what they want to write about, guide them through the process of creating a visual journal entry. Encourage them to use drawings, diagrams, charts, and other visual aids to represent their thoughts, ideas, and reflections. As students are creating their visual journal entries, circulate around the classroom providing feedback and suggestions. It is important to note that there is no right or wrong way to create a visual journal entry. The goal is for students to use visuals to communicate their understanding of a concept or their reflections on a topic. Once students have finished their entries, have them share their visual journals with a partner or small group. This will allow students to get feedback from their peers and also allow them to see how other students represented the same concept or topic. The final step in implementing visual journaling is to provide students with opportunities to use their visual journals during inquiry-based learning activities. Visual journals can be used in a variety of ways during inquiry-based learning. Here are a few ideas. At the beginning of an inquiry-based learning activity, ask students to make predictions about what they will learn. They can then record their predictions in their visual journals. During an inquiry-based learning activity, ask students to draw or diagram a concept or process. For example, if you are teaching about the water cycle, ask students to draw a diagram of the water cycle. After an inquiry-based learning activity, ask students to reflect on what they have learned and how their understanding has changed. They can record their reflections in their visual journals. When implementing visual journaling, it is important to keep a few things in mind. First, ensure that the activity is age-appropriate. Younger students may need simpler prompts or more guidance when creating their visual journal entries. Second, incorporate student input when planning activities. Students are more likely to be engaged in an activity if they have a say in what they are learning about or how they are demonstrating their learning. Third, provide opportunities for collaboration. Students can learn a lot from their peers, and working collaboratively can help students to develop their communication and interpersonal skills. Fourth, use colorful, tactile materials or visual aids. This will help students to stay engaged and motivated. And fifth, provide opportunities for students to reflect on or present their work. This will help students to see the purpose of the activity and will help them to understand how their learning is meaningful. Visual journaling is a flexible approach that can be modified to suit diverse learners. For example, students who need additional support may benefit from having more structured prompts or sentence starters when writing their journal entries. Students who are ready for more enrichment may be challenged to create more complex visual representations of their learning. In conclusion, visual journaling is an effective method for implementing inquiry-based learning in the elementary classroom. By following the steps outlined in this video, teachers can help their students to engage in deep learning experiences that will help them to remember what they have learned and develop their creativity. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.